They won't tell you this in school, but the gods of the ancient world, the ones who shaped civilizations, inspired legends, and were worshipped for centuries, were black. From the Nile Valley to Mesopotamia, from India to Europe, from the Americas to China, the earliest depictions of divinity had African features. Statues, sacred texts, and temple paintings all point to one undeniable truth. The very first gods of human history were black. But over time, this truth was buried. History was rewritten. The faces of these gods were changed, their stories distorted, and their African origins erased. Godfrey Higgins, in his famous work Anacalypsis, wrote, "Whenever we look back to the beginnings of nations, we find black complexions. Across the world, the earliest gods Venus, Juno, Jupiter, Apollo, Hercules, Isis, Osiris, Krishna, and so many others were black. Their statues and carvings are still here, a reminder of a time when Africa was the center of the world, shaping not just cultures, but the very idea of divinity." Let's take a journey back in time and rediscover these gods, their black heritage, and the powerful spiritual legacy they left behind. Osiris, the Black Lord of the afterlife. Osiris, one of the most revered gods of ancient Egypt, known as Kemet in antiquity, was always depicted with dark skin. As the lord of the underworld and the god of resurrection, Osiris symbolized life, death, and rebirth. His dark complexion was not merely symbolic, it reflected the people who worshipped him. Ancient Egyptian statues and paintings consistently portrayed Osiris as a black-skinned deity. The 18th century European traveler Constantin Francois Volney observed the unmistakably African features of Egyptian gods and rulers. He noted that the gods of ancient Egypt were depicted as black, just like their priests and kings. Similarly, the renowned Egyptologist Jean-François Champollion recognized Osiris and other deities as distinctly African in appearance. Osiris represented the fertile soil of the Nile, the lifeblood of Egyptian civilization. His blackness symbolized the rich, life-giving silt deposited by the river, but it also had a literal connection to the complexion of the people who created and revered him. Osiris's story spread far beyond Egypt, influencing religious thought in Greece, Rome, and even early Christianity. Isis, the Great Black Mother. Isis, the wife of Osiris and the mother of Horus, was one of the most beloved deities of the ancient world. She was venerated as the ultimate mother goddess, embodying fertility, protection, and healing. Her influence extended far beyond Africa, reaching the Mediterranean world and beyond. In many ways, Isis became the prototype for later representations of the Virgin Mary in Christianity. Cheikh Anta Diop, the Senegalese scholar and anthropologist, conclusively demonstrated through linguistic and historical studies that the civilization of Kemet was Black African, not Middle Eastern or European. Isis, with her African features and black skin, was a direct reflection of the people who worshipped her. Her depictions in Egyptian art show her as a regal figure with dark skin, often nursing her son Horus. The image of Isis nursing Horus directly influenced later Christian art of the Madonna and Child. Even today, statues of the Black Madonna, representations of the Virgin Mary with African features, can be found throughout Europe. These depictions are not merely products of age or soot, as some claim. They are a testament to the African origins of the divine. Krishna and Vishnu, the dark gods of India. In India, the African spiritual legacy is evident in the dark-skinned gods of the Hindu pantheon. Krishna, one of the most beloved and revered deities in Hinduism, is often described as Sham, meaning dark-skinned or black. His name itself is derived from the Sanskrit word for dark or black. Krishna's divine complexion is celebrated in Hindu scriptures, where his beauty and dark skin are praised as symbols of his divinity. Similarly, Vishnu, the preserver of the universe and one of the principal Hindu gods, is often depicted with dark blue or black skin. This depiction echoes the blackness of Osiris in Kemet, symbolizing both the infinite cosmos and the physical appearance of the people who first imagined him. The connections between the African and Indian spiritual traditions are profound. Godfrey Higgins in Anacalypsis noted that the original Buddha, like Krishna, was black, with tightly curled woolly hair. The shared imagery and symbolism suggest a deep, ancient connection between African spirituality and the divine figures of India. The Buddha, the Black Sage, the earliest representations of the Buddha, the enlightened teacher and founder of Buddhism, depict him with African features, dark skin and tightly curled hair. Godfrey Higgins observed this in Anacalypsis, noting that the original Buddha and his earliest followers were black. These depictions, found in ancient sculptures and carvings, reflect the African origins of Buddhism's spiritual foundation. The spread of Buddhism from India to East Asia brought with it the legacy of its African roots. While later depictions of the Buddha were modified to reflect the physical characteristics of other cultures, the earliest images remain a testament to the Black origins of this spiritual tradition. Ancient China, African roots in the East. Even in China, traces of Africa's spiritual legacy can be found. The Xia and Shang dynasties, some of China's earliest ruling families, had African origins. Ancient Chinese artwork from these periods depicts black-skinned figures and noble individuals. These early depictions were later altered to fit a different historical narrative, but their African heritage remains undeniable. The Greek historian Herodotus, often called the father of history, wrote about two great Ethiopian civilizations, one in Africa and one in Asia. His accounts align with Higgins' claim that a very great nation of blacks ruled over much of Asia in ancient times. These black civilizations were the builders, spiritual leaders, and divine figures of the ancient world. The gods of early Europe. The influence of African spirituality extended into early Europe as well. The Greeks and Romans borrowed heavily from Egyptian religious systems, philosophy, and mathematics. Martin Bernal's groundbreaking work Black Athena laid out the case for how Greek civilization was deeply influenced by Africa. Many of the Greek and Roman gods, Jupiter, Apollo, Venus, Bacchus, and others, were originally depicted with African features. As European empires grew in power, these gods were recast in their own image, erasing the African origins of their divine archetypes. Plato and Pythagoras, two of the most celebrated figures in Western philosophy, studied in Kemet under African priests, learning the mysteries of the universe from those who had safeguarded this knowledge for millennia. The Black Madonnas in early Christianity. The earliest depictions of Christ in Europe present him as a dark-skinned man with woolly hair. Statues and paintings of the Black Madonna, representations of the Virgin Mary with African features, can still be found in churches across Europe, from Poland to Spain, from France to Italy. These images are not the result of age or candle smoke, as some claim, but deliberate representations of their African origins. Even today, the Pope kneels before a Black Madonna in the Vatican. If Christianity had originated in Europe, why would its earliest representations of Mary and Jesus be black? The answer is simple: because Christianity's roots are African. However, during the era of colonial expansion, European powers sought to erase these origins. They replaced African spiritual traditions with foreign ones, teaching African-descended people to see their own gods as evil and foreign gods as holy. This spiritual conquest was as devastating as the physical one, severing African people from their divine heritage. So what does this mean to us today? The erasure of Black divinity was intentional, but the truth never truly disappeared. African spiritual traditions survived in coded forms, hidden in the drumbeats of the Caribbean, the Orisha worship of Yoruba land, the hoodoo practices of the American South, and the rituals of Black churches. These traditions, passed down through stories, music, and rituals, contain the wisdom of our ancestors and the power to reclaim our spiritual heritage. When you see the Black Madonnas in Europe, the hidden depictions of Black Christ, and the ancient texts describing gods with dark skin and woolly hair, you realize something profound. The power was always ours. But power only exists when recognized. If all the gods were Black, what does that mean for African descended people today? It means we were never meant to be followers of someone else's story. We were the originators, the builders, the creators of civilization and divinity itself. The time has come to reclaim what was always ours. The question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue to seek external validation, or will you embrace the spiritual traditions of your ancestors? The gods of Kemet, the wisdom of Osiris and Isis, the legacy of Krishna and Buddha, all point to one truth: the divine is within us. Let us honor our ancestors, reclaim our heritage, and rebuild the spiritual foundations of the world. If you found this video eye-opening, please like and subscribe to our channel to show your support. Click on the video popping up on your screen right now.